Carbine 1 from Middle Tennessee Firearms Training. Is it any good? Is it just a cheap copy of Urban Rifleman from Patriot Training? Let's talk about that. Welcome to the Patriot Training YouTube channel. My name is Clay Howell. I'm the owner and head firearms instructor at Patriot Training. The topic of this video is Carbine 1 from Middle Tennessee Firearms Training. Is it any good? Is it just a cheap copy of Urban Rifleman? Is it something different? Let's delve into that, shall we? Middle Tennessee Firearms Training started a few years ago, and the head instructor is Jeremy Zimmer. Jeremy is a Patriot Training alumnus, and yours truly happens to also be an alumnus of MTFT. In addition to that, I must disclose, I have taken Rifle 1 from MTFT, and for this video, understand I will call it Rifle 1 or I will call it Carbine 1. And if you look at the name, it actually has Rifle/Carbine 1. So I will use those names interchangeably. It doesn't change what the class is. Instead, it's just nomenclature. The fact of the matter is, Carbine 1 from MTFT is a class that is somewhat similar. It is most similar to Urban Rifleman with Patriot Training. And I have been asked, is it just a cheap copy? And my reply, the quick and dirty, too long, didn't read, TLDR, no, it's not a cheap copy of Urban Rifleman. In fact, to be fair, Jeremy, at the time of the filming of this video, Jeremy has not taken Urban Rifleman from me yet. So, and he has plans to, so it couldn't possibly be a cheap copy. What it is instead is it is Jeremy's presentation of the rifle for self-defense. And just about every school out there has some variation of that kind of a class. And if they don't, they should. The instructor needs to branch out, get into some rifle training, and, you know, offer people that, because that's a very, very important part of self-defense. If I'm being 100% fair, Carbine 1 has about 40% overlap with Urban Rifleman. Most of these individual skills and maybe just a little bit on the tactics as well. And if I'm speaking brutally honestly, those skills are the ones that you need as a rifleman. And if you're as high speed and low drag as you say you are, then you know that these skills are the ones that are going to make a difference, and they are the ones that you need to practice and learn the most. The person who asked me my thoughts on Carbine 1 said, which is better, Carbine 1 or Urban Rifleman? And that's not a fair question, because they're different classes. There's only about a 40% overlap in material. And so therefore, for the 60% that's different, it's not fair to say one is better or one is worse. If we were both teaching the exact same class, then we could make that analysis. However, they are different classes with similar purposes, so it is unfair to say which one is better. Plus, I own Patriot Training, I created Urban Rifleman. You know, one of two things is true. If I say Carbine 1 is better, you're going to think I'm lying. And if I say Urban Rifleman is better, you're going to think, well, of course you got to say that. You made it. So there's no way that I could give a fair assessment of that. What I will say is they are two different classes. They teach you some really important things, and they are both very valid, and you need to take both classes. Perhaps one of those things that's baked into which class is better might also be which instructor is better. And similarly, I do not like that comparison. And it's not because I think I'm better than Jeremy, and it's not because I think Jeremy's better than me. I think we're two different men with two different teaching styles, and I think that people react differently to those different teaching styles. And that is normal, that is natural, and that's the way things should be. And so therefore, it's not who is better. The question is, are you learning something valuable from Patriot Training? And I certainly think so, or else I wouldn't offer it. Are you learning something valuable from MTFT? And my answer is I think so, otherwise I wouldn't keep going back.
Come up, line up on there, safety's off, and then I'll say at ease, come down, safety's on. Yeah? Here we go. Up.
Another thing to talk about when you talk about which instructor is better, which again just is a faulty notion to begin with, but something you need to think about is the fact that it's up to the student to learn and have a student's attitude. If you come in with an empty cup and you wish to absorb everything that's useful, you're going to learn a lot more than if you come in wanting to show off. And the reason why is because you will gain new knowledge, new insight, new methods of saying something, new methods of learning something, new methods of doing something. It is entirely possible that Carbine 1 and Urban Rifleman cover the exact same skill, and they do so in slightly different manners, and those manners are both 100% valid, and you need to learn them both from both different points of view. If you refuse to absorb new material, you're going to have a hard time learning from anyone, no matter if they're the best instructor in the world or not. As an example, I remember several years ago I was in a class and we were performing a drill, a really fun drill. It was a marksmanship-based drill where we were shooting steel at 100, 200, and 300 yards. And we were shooting in the prone, and as people talked about the fact that I was not missing my shots from the prone, particularly at 200 and 300 yards, most of the other students in the class had a miss or two at 200, and all of them had multiple misses at 300. And meanwhile, not only was I hitting at 300, but one of the instructors who was spotting was like, okay, Clay, you hit him a little bit low of center. Can you hit him in the throat? And so I just changed my hold a little bit, boom, and sure enough, the bullet went to the throat area. And that instructor was having a grand old time because he was just chuckling and laughing and like, okay, on demand from nothing but you resting your rifle on your magazine and a simple ACOG scope, you at 300 yards can, with bulk ammunition, hit this enemy target anywhere you want to on demand. And he thought that was really neat. And conversation started with the head instructor, and my turn was over, and the question was posed to me not by one of the instructors but by one of the other students if I had ever shot that range before. And I pointed out that in a prone I had shot to 600 yards with a rifle, and at that point in time with an AR-15 rifle, I should say, and that I had shot to 400 sitting. And the head instructor said, well, we happen to have a 400-yard target right over there. Do you think you could hit it sitting? And I said, yes, sir, if you give me permission. And he said, please do. So I assumed a sitting position, and I shot, and I hit the 400-yard target first time, and I put my rifle on safe and laid it down, and everybody kind of chuckled, and there was more conversation, and without getting into the nuts and the bolts of it, basically one of the students asked if that was typical, and the head instructor said, oh, no, Clay's actually a better shooter than I am because I could not have done that. And I was very honored and very flattered, and he's sitting there saying that the student is better than him in that case, and I'm sitting there saying there's a reason why I was paying this guy to take a class from him. And so you've got to understand from that anecdote that it doesn't matter who's better, because I could show you my notes, 20 some odd pages of notes that I took from that class. And, to think that you cannot learn from somebody who is not as good as you, that's asinine. That's insane. I don't know which of us is a better shooter. I don't care. In fact, I'd rather not find out, because that would mean we're on opposite ends, and I would rather fight with this guy, not against him. So, let's just work together, my friends. As another anecdote, there was a drill, and this was not a marksmanship-based drill. This was more like a close-up run-and-gun kind of a drill based off of sport shooting, which is really, really fun. And I was running the old A4 with the ACOG, and the objective was to maneuver in and around these barricades and shoot from the right, shoot from the left. And different ranges, all the way out from maybe 15 yards all the way up to maybe 4 or 5 yards. And where the hits fell, that was scored. And then the time was also measured. And hits that fell outside the end, the middle A zone, they cost you time. So your final score was expressed as a measurement of time. And in that class, we all ran through the exercise, every student in the class, as well as the instructor, as well as the assistant. And my time, therefore my score, first time out, was by far and away the best, by several seconds. And the irony was I was running an ACOG and not a red dot and not, a carbine. I was running the old full buttstock, A2 buttstock sweetness there, and was still able to, do shoulder changes, all that kind of stuff, and still make very precise hits and make those hits within a very reasonable time frame. And so we all ran the drill again, and yet again my time improved by about 2 seconds, and everybody else made improvements as well. And the best time from that, which was mine, the second best time was again the instructor, the head instructor of the class, and his time was not as good as my first run. So, he acknowledged, that instructor acknowledged, hey, yeah, you're moving with a rifle, you're the best one here today. And the irony is that instructor also made a joke about how many notes I took during that class. And I got, a couple dozen pages of notes on that one too. So again, it's not who's the better shooter, it's not who's the better competitor, it's not who had a better day that day. That's irrelevant. The question is, can I learn something from this class? And that's what you should be asking yourself. One of the things I would like to advise, that probably the negative about Carbine 1 is that there is no acorn drill at Carbine 1. And I have discussed this with Jeremy at length, and I'm not sure he's going to put it in Carbine 1. It might find its way into one of his pistol classes, though. All right, so what's the scoop? Should you take it? Should you not? Yes, take Carbine 1 from Middle Tennessee Firearms Training. Take it right now. I've put a link down in the description. Should you take Urban Rifleman? Yes, take Urban Rifleman. And instead of trying to compare them and pitting one against the other, look at where they overlap and look at the body of material that you learn from those two classes and ask yourself, is this material useful? And I think if you take both classes, the only honest answer to that question is this material is absolutely top-notch, very useful, very pertinent, very practical. The nuts and the bolts are, I have taken Carbine 1 from Middle Tennessee Firearms Training and would thoroughly enjoy taking it again. Jeremy now offers a Carbine 2 as well, and I intend to get into that just as soon as humanly possible. And I learned a lot in that class. I took many, many pages of notes. And this video is being filmed in 2024, and as of right now, February in 2024, Jeremy has earmarked a couple of rifle classes to take with Patriot Training as well, and we appreciate him returning the favor. And I'm looking forward to taking, I'm signed up for a pistol class with him this summer, and I am eagerly awaiting for his schedule on his rifle too, so that I can take that as well. So you better believe that I like training in all its forms. It's not about who's better, it's about what do they have to offer, and I certainly think Middle Tennessee Firearms Training has a lot to offer the shooter. Whether you're a new shooter, whether you're experienced, doesn't matter. Get out there, train. That's what it's all about. Well, folks, that about does it for this video. I would encourage you to hit like, hit subscribe, click that notification bell so that you can learn when the next Patriot Training video drops. Give me a comment. Tell me about your favorite class that you took. Tell me about, an interesting time you had in a class where, you did well, or maybe even a time where you didn't do so well. Tell me about that. We've all had those. Love to hear your story on that. That's one of my favorite things to hear. And I'd like to remind you, you don't have to be a Patriot to train, but you do have to train if you want to be a Patriot. Take care.